Hey guys, it's Ian here again. Want to talk to you about a couple more things that I've read on Eclipse Phase. It's a slow process, but there's a lot to digest. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is first contact. When transhumanity encountered its first, and so far as I can tell, only alien civilization in space. Now the aliens that they encountered are referred to as the Factors. They appear to be some kind of like an evolved slime mold colony type species, and in order to communicate with transhumans, they have to use like computer assistants basically, because they're not capable of speech in our sense. They, from what I recall, they communicate with themselves through some kind of like chemical reactions and exchanges or something. Which, you know, is properly alien, I suppose. So it's nice to see an alien race that is encountered that's not, you know, humanoid and uses our speech and things of that sort. So the Factors appeared to transhumanity about 3 years after the fall. You know, basically responding to actually a kind of almost like an isolationist transhuman faction. Who had an emergency. They had lost their life support, I think, on their colony or something, and they were dying, and they sent out a distress call, not expecting anyone to really respond, given their isolationist kind of nature, but instead an alien starship showed up and saved the colony. Now this act, coupled with the fact that they were broadcasting a message of non-aggression and you know, just kind of a generally friendly message and demeanor, basically helped to ensure that our first contact with this alien species was not hostile and didn't turn to violence. They claim to be ambassadors of, you know, other alien civilizations, and they bear a warning for transhumanity against the development and use of artificial intelligence and against the use of the Pandora gates, which I mentioned before, which are these Stargate-like portals that allow people to just travel to, you know, extrasolar planets and systems and such. So the book leaves most of the details about these aliens anyway up to interpretation for the GM, which is interesting because it's not all just laid out there for you. You can kind of do with it what you want. You can ignore it, I suppose, too, if you want. Just forget it ever happened. But there's no, as far as I can see, now granted I'm only like 40 odd pages into the book, I haven't seen anything talking about, you know, any kind of factor agenda, like are they, you know, do they have less than amenable plans for transhumanity, or are they really just these kind of friendly, benevolent aliens who've just shown up to warn us of the dangers of artificial intelligence and Pandora gates and to trade with transhumanity, which is something that they have engaged in. They seem to visit the solar system 2 or 3 times a year, which has led many to believe that either they have a base or a homeworld very close to our solar system, or that they have faster than light technology, which, you know, again, the Factor technology is kind of left uninterpreted and unexplained. It seems that they haven't revealed that much information to us about their technology either, which would kind of make sense, I suppose, when you're dealing with, you know, another species, another race in space. So yeah, you have this alien race anyway, and they do trade some strange alien artifacts occasionally with transhuman colonies and factions and stuff. They outright refuse to deal with basically any people or any factions that pursue and develop artificial general intelligence or that use the Pandora gates. You know, obviously the people who ignore their warnings and just go ahead and do these supposedly dangerous things anyway, they just won't deal with them. Important to note now, I'm going to step away from the Factors for a minute and talk about transhumanity and factions within. There is no solar system government. There's no transhuman, you know, all-encompassing kind of nation or superpower or anything of that sort. Transhumanity is broken up into lots of these little factions. most habitats, colonies, etc., govern themselves, and so there is no big United Federation of Planets or anything like that, which leads to a lot of diversity amongst the colonies and habitats, and also I suppose probably leads to some conflict and some strife as well. There may be some colonies and some factions completely embrace their transhuman nature. There may be factions that use only synthetic morphs, and maybe they all look the same and they walk around. There's other habitats and colonies and factions, I should say, that are bioconservatives, and they refuse their transhuman nature. They're completely against what's the term I would use, the digitization of their ego, and they oppose the changing of morphs and bodies and such. They think that the soul should remain within one body, and that it should be basically special, reverent, if you will. So those would be like the bioconservative factions, and there's just any multitude, anything you can think of and dream up, you can put it out there somewhere. Like DBJ, Dave Brian Jackson, does a great series of videos, much better than my series so far, on Eclipse Phase, and he talks about the possibility of habitat where maybe all the morphs are clones of one individual. In fact, maybe all the personalities in that habitat are just forks of that individual's ego. So basically it's one person who has populated an entire habitat with copies of himself. Very, very a little bit crazy maybe, or nihilistic, if you will, but these are all different possibilities. The point being, anyway, that transhumanity is very much kind of splintered into different factions, and there's lots of different viewpoints and lots of different possibilities out there. The book does lay out quite a few of them. I haven't gotten to the big section on that, but it lays out several different larger, more powerful and influential factions. But you can pretty much, if you can dream it up, you can make it up. Because thanks to the Pandora gates too, you don't even have to stay within the realms of the solar system. You can go out to other systems and create your own galaxies or whatever you wish, I suppose. But yeah, so that's the kind of situation with transhumanity. And then we started off, we talked about the factors, then we talked a little bit about transhuman factions, and I want to kind of finish this video talking about nostalgia and prejudice. So given that it's only 10 years after the fall, about 89%, according to the book, of the living transhumans escaped from Earth during the fall. So they have memories of actually their original home, of living on Earth, and they have a strong nostalgia for it. So they may collect coins or stamps, or wear certain jewelries that are made of memorabilia from their time on Earth, just to kind of remind them of their home. And some of them, they take a lot of pride perhaps in their earthborn human nature. Another 10%, and what were the other 10%? 1% were the peoples who basically had already lived in space on different colonies and stuff that didn't live on Earth. Oh, and the other 10% basically of the transhuman population would be the people who were either born after the fall or were too young to actually remember living on Earth. So over time, some people have started to accept more their new situations and let go somewhat of the nostalgia. But there's still a lot of people who have that memory and that nostalgia for Earth, and that kind of longing for their home that was taken from them during the Titan attacks in the fall. A lot of groups, especially gate crashers, which are these kind of exploration groups that would use the Pandora gates to travel to other systems and to other, I don't know if they travel to other galaxies or not, but at least to other star systems. A lot of them fund their expeditions first by making expeditions to Earth, which is an extremely dangerous thing now after the fall, because there are still Titan machines roaming Earth that that remain after the main Titan AI has disappeared. There's still these rogue kind of killing machines wandering the Earth. There's lots of probably different dangers just from the war-torn situation, the status of the planet. Like whether it be nuclear fallout, biological weapons, chemical issues, etc., storms, pollution, etc. But so there are these adventure-like groups, I guess, or exploratory groups that do travel back to Earth in order to try to recover artifacts from there. And they make this stuff called nostalgia jewelry. A lot of it's fake, and it's made from just nano-fabricated stuff. But then you can occasionally find a rare piece that might be made from an actual coin from Earth or a stamp. Which coins and stamps, it specifically states, are kind of rare to find anyway, simply because they had gone out of common use 40 years before the fall occurred. But nonetheless, just a little bit there on the situation with Earth, and also onto the fact the concepts of prejudice within the transhuman setting of Eclipse Phase. Since the ego can be digitized and can be changed to all these different morphs, basically your ego is immortal and you can change bodies. Before the fall, there were all kinds of non-human morphs, non-humanoid morphs that were being developed and looked at, and they were. I mean, obviously, transhumanity was young, and they were experimenting with different things. After the fall, they have kind of regressed again more towards humanoid morphs. Again, this is more of that nostalgia, just to kind of, I suppose, relate to and to reflect their human nature. Not their human nature, but their human origins, I guess. And there's a lot of prejudice in certain habitats and colonies towards people who choose to use non-human morphs. Like there's Nova crab morphs, right, Chepe? There's, I'm just trying to think of different morphs. So you can go into like an octopoidal type morph. There's these ape-like morphs, which are really good for using in like anti-gravity, because they have basically like their hands and feet. They can that's what I'm looking for. They can grab onto things with, things of that sort. There's lots of different types, but yeah, a lot of transhumans will kind of turn their noses up or look down on people who prefer non-humanoid morphs. And as such, there are also habitats where maybe non-human morphs are the norm and are favored because, escaping prejudice from other habitats, they go to this habitat where, hey, everybody can use a non-human morph and not have to worry about being judged, But yeah, and then of course there's also the uplifts, who I think I forgot to touch on in my first video. Before the fall, I think even maybe up to 20 years or so before the fall, humanity, transhumanity, had found a way to uplift certain animal species to give them a certain sentience, I guess, or yeah. I think it started off, if I recall correctly, it started off with dolphins and parrots, which are, of course, highly intelligent animals. Eventually, I know, just from looking through the book, I know there's uplifted octopi, there's uplifted, apes and gorillas and things of that sort. But yeah, so these also would face a lot of prejudice as well, just because, they don't have a human origin. They are animals that were somehow given this extreme human-like intelligence and sapience, or sentience, I should say. Sorry, not sapience, but yeah. So that's all I'm going to touch on for now. I think this video's gone on long enough. This is just, actually, I think I only read about 2 pages today, but that covered kind of a little bit of all these issues. So enjoying the read. Going to really enjoy the game once I get into running it, and yeah, I look forward to telling you more about it as I continue, and I'll see you all at the gaming table.